Hi, friend. Welcome back to another episode of the Better Events podcast. This week, I'm rejoined by our guest co host, Ryan Criswell. And this time, we're diving into a bit of the behind the scenes of running our event businesses. And this teaser of an episode, we did say being good at events is only half the job. As a business owner, you also have to do the business side of events. So, as two solopreneurs, we sit down and kind of compare and contrast some of our lessons learned, things that we wish we knew sooner, as well as some tips for you if you're feeling a little overwhelmed with starting your own event business or maybe going freelance for the first time. So without further ado, let's get into the episode.
Welcome to the Better Events Podcast. Join two event strategists, Logan Clements and Mary Davidson, who believe we can all create, host, and attend better events. In this podcast, you will learn about event strategy and actions that you can use today as an event host, planner, or manager. Hear directly from the people who are creating innovative and inspiring events today and tomorrow, and grow your business along the way. Now, let's get started, and thanks for listening to the Better Events Podcast.
Hi, friend. Welcome back to another episode of the Better Events Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Logan Clements, and I'm joined this week by our guest co-host, Ryan Criswell. And before we jump into talking about what it's like to be good at events and, having to figure out how to be good at the business side of an event business, we have our conversation starter. What does your ideal non-event day look like?
Yeah, for me, my ideal day is usually just at the spa. So yeah, I love massages. So even if it's just getting a massage, I feel like being at the spa too, I just actually turn off my phone. So if I'm doing something at home, like I can't just veg out and watch TV or play video games. I have to go do something and be away from my phone and my emails. So usually the spa is a good setting for me. What about you, Logan?
I think you stole my answer because now I want to say the spa. I will say that is one of my pro tip listeners, like our bodies are a part of our job. And I have become very non-negotiable of that. I get monthly massages and I get monthly hour and a half, 90-minute massages, which is on the bougier side. But I'm like, my body almost is slightly athletic, has to be able to stand and sit for long periods of time. So if it's not the spa, Ryan, I will say it's probably, I travel so much for events that like sitting on my couch and reading a book while I look out my window is honestly my most favorite thing. And I had gone on this amazing trip last month and I found somebody else I saw on Instagram had posted like reading while they had a background from the book, like inspired by the book on their TV screen, like from YouTube. So I was like, oh my gosh, I missed this trip I went on and I got to go to Antarctica and it was gorgeous. And so I was like, Antarctica backgrounds on YouTube. And I literally put up, so it was just like icebergs and whales while I read my book and looked out the window. And that's like my perfect ideal non-event day.
I love that. I feel like, especially with the weather we have over here in the Pacific Northwest, having a nice backdrop is always good. But I actually get 2-hour massages. So you should upgrade.
Level up, yeah. Ryan. Yes.
I know. It's just, like you're saying, it's so worth it. It's once a month and our bodies and our minds go through a lot. So
oh my gosh. Well, listeners, if you're not getting massages, you need to and I don't know what your take is for why you do a longer one. The reason I got longer was because I had a masseuse was like, oh, if you have more time, we can spend more time on different like body parts versus a 60-minute. You truly kind of like can only just either briefly touch on everything or focus on one part and kind of skip something else. And my 90 minutes, I feel like I can be like, oh, it's been I sat a lot or I had to sit at a weird angle at my tech table. So I'm like, it's really neck and back today. Or if I got off a flight, it's like, it's all about the hips because I sat in like a very tight position. But I can only imagine if I gave them 30 more minutes, how much more work they could do.
Yeah, just pick that spot. That's why I like it, like my neck and shoulders. It's like, oh, I can actually spend 20, 30 minutes doing that and then do the full rest of the body massage. But yeah, I always schedule my massages too after an event or especially after a flight because yeah, your body is just uncomfortable.
Oh, well, we're going to start this episode from a nice relaxed place, which is good because we might get a little uncomfortable having to talk about some hard business things. But Ryan, you want to let our listeners know why we chose this week's topic?
Sure. So this week we are talking about being good at events versus being good at business. So for us personally, I know that we run our own businesses, and I think we just want to kind of talk about that aspect of what it's like to run a business on your own. And for me, it's the difference between, it's kind of like trying to wrap your mind around the difference of being really good at your skill and not knowing, like knowing everything about events and not knowing everything about business. And business is always changing. So I think it'll be fun to get both of our perspectives on this as micro business owners.
Yes, I'm excited for this one. So again, we love to talk of, broad before we get into the discussion. So talking about being good at events versus good at business, like how do you, Ryan, define the difference between those two skill sets?
Yeah. So, like I said, it's kind of hard to wrap my head around it. I know I'm really good at events and I have a lot of experience doing events, but I don't really have experience in business. I think there are a lot of things, there are a lot of guidelines, but there's really no one true answer. And, as a control freak, it's really hard to not know the plan, the business plan, when you can have an event plan, you can have a run of show. I don't really know the business plan for my business, just because you're really learning so much in the first few years. I mean, I'm going into my 4th year, and this year has been completely different than the past 2 years. So I'm brainstorming. I'm trying to think of new ideas of how to connect with people and different things I can do. And yeah, it's kind of I don't know. I guess that aspect is kind of, it's not like depressing, but it's harder, because it's like, oh, why don't I have these skills? And it's definitely more work too. Like you definitely have to work to figure out what you want your business to be and some of the logistics about business. So I feel like that it's easier to like get down on myself about that than, oh, I don't know this thing about events, because that's like, I'll figure it out. But business, there's so many different ways it could go. So how are you feeling about being good at events, but still learning how to run a business?
Yeah, I mean, this is like my 10th year, and I still feel like there's constantly things I need to learn. I mean, I've talked on the podcast before, but like I didn't start my own event business out of a like entrepreneurial drive. Like it came from a place of being burnt out and needing to create space. And while creating that space, it was like, well, I need to freelance. And if I'm going to freelance, I want to do it like the legal way. So let me figure out the business side to like legally be able to be a freelancer versus it like a side hustle when I'm a full-time employee. And through that, I feel like I just kind of like stumbled into it. So there's similarities in the ways that I feel like I stumbled into events, but I'm clearly passionate about the event side of things and the event skills I've built. And with the business owner side, that passion has grown over the years more because I feel like I had to learn some stuff the hard way. I got a little mansplained to by a couple people when I was in my first 2 years of business of like, they clearly could tell I didn't know what I was doing. But that was frustrating because I also couldn't really find a blueprint for the kind of business like you and I have, Ryan. And Mary has a similar business too, but Mary has some employees. And so that's like a different, I even say a leveled up structure. And one of the things I kept coming up against was finding tools and things that were created for businesses that are bigger and trying to grow, and like customer management software and all this stuff that I was like, I don't really need that. Like I'm one person, but yes, I have to track customers and leads and do sales and do all that stuff. But maybe I can create something that's like just going to work for me. And I think that's the cool part, is getting to build it, but also the frustrating part, because as a type A person, I wish there were just templates and I could follow that template and it would mean instant success. And instead, I've had to kind of evolve and learn over the years and pick and choose. Like I learn from other people and I'll be like, oh, I like how you did that. I'm going to steal that little piece and do that on my process. But it's been a lot of like learning by doing, and it's not as transparent as an event where I can go and like shadow someone. It's been having to have conversations like this and with other people of like, how do you do this? If you have a client who doesn't like your proposal, what are you doing to say back to them? Are you pushing? Are you doing a discount? Are you walking away? Like you just have to learn some of that stuff through these smaller conversations.
Yeah, I totally agree. It is a lot of community-based conversation and some research, because yeah, I do feel like a lot of things, even some of the trainings that you'll find online, are for brick and mortar. That's another one, that this is how you open your own store and how to do e-commerce and how to have a seller's website. And I'm like, no, what about just kind of automating my emails? I'd really like to do that and not pay $200 a month. So I totally agree with that. And I think that's one of the great things about the Better Events Conference too, is that we are getting that niche. And so especially when people will go up and do their presentations, like, this is how I'm tracking my financials, this is the kind of proposal I'm sending, has been so helpful, because I'm like, okay, y'all are speaking my language and you have different tools that I maybe didn't know about. So I love that. Yeah, definitely reach out to your community. But thinking back to when you first started, which side felt more natural to you, the event work itself or the business side of things? I think you kind of touched on that.
I did. Yeah. I mean, the event work felt more natural. I think both for me, when I went out on my own, I also had been doing some marketing and some events. So I was kind of straddling both worlds. So I will say the event part felt more natural, but also the marketing of my business felt really natural because that was like I was trained in doing social media marketing, website, like all that stuff I did from the jump because I was like, well, this is what legitimizes a business. The gap I really had though was in sales and in like lead nurturing and then some of the back end admin things like I'd had to at my other job. I had to invoice clients, so I knew how that worked. But I was mainly dealing with them after we'd convinced them to go with us. Or if I was a part of a sales pitch, I was very much a junior part of that pitch. And so that was new to me. And to this day is probably my least comfortable part of my business is pitching myself and negotiating with folks. I've gotten better at it. I think I've talked about it here on the podcast, but it is still something like I just had it come up in this first quarter of trying to think through working with someone new who used different like verbiage than I was used to. And I've just been burned in the past where like expectations were different. So I hate being that person to be like, wait, whoa, let's ask some questions. But I've learned if I don't do that and I just say yes and jump into it, that's how younger me got into some kind of stickier situations. So the event work is definitely the easier part in my brain these days. But unfortunately, the business part is like crucial to continuing to get to do the event work. So how about you, Ryan? How would you answer that? What side feels more natural to you?
Yeah, that's a good point about like we do have to do the business part to have event work. So that's always interesting. I mean, the event side was more natural to me. I have been in a lot of different positions, and I think the communication aspect was really easy for me, following up on emails, cold emailing people, doing networking. I was really comfortable with being, out front. And I know you've said before on the podcast, like writing down your like pricing is always hard. So like you're saying, pitching yourself. I felt like okay about that, I guess, but I think I definitely like lowballed myself. So like you said, it does help to just kind of put those prices out there, whether it's like on your website and be like, okay, this is $1,000. And just like, I'm laughing just even thinking about that. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah, just getting comfortable with that business aspect and that sales person pitch. And that's kind of what I think is like the difference between just being good at your skill and being a business person is that, especially when you have a micro business, you are the salesperson, you are the marketing person, you are the admin, and you're also the service provider. So it's rare that you actually have all those skills. But like you were saying, I think there are, past positions that you've been in that you can, okay, I know a little bit of this, I know a little bit of this. And then you just keep building on that to make it, make the process your own. What were some of the first moments where you realized, oh, I need to learn this part of running my business?
Oh, mine was definitely coming up on the first time I had to pay taxes as a business owner because I believe that I'm like, I'd paid taxes before as an employee, but it just was like simpler. You don't have expenses. And then once you have a business, it's like, oh, I have business expenses. And I think I had like thought that taxes were just less than what they ended up being. Like, I don't know why in my head I was like, oh, I only need like probably a couple $100s. And I remember my dad helped me with my taxes. He helps them for everyone in our family when I first started. And he came to me and I swear he was like, so you owe, I'm pretty sure it was like $3,000. And I just looked at him and I was like, what? Excuse me? And he was like, yeah, you have that, you put that away, right? When people paid you, you like took a little out. And I was like, I did not think through that part. And it just like shifted in my brain of like, oh my gosh, when everybody gives me $1, like that whole dollar doesn't go to me. It's like really, okay, 60 cents of it or 70 cents or something. And I was able to like figure it out and move some stuff around and do it. But it was this moment where I was like, oh my gosh, like, cause then you also had my profit loss statement. It was like, you have, $10,000 of profit this year. And I was like, amazing. Can I have that money now? And he's like, oh no, you've already spent it. Like it's in your business. That's just like an accounting sheet. And it was this moment of realizing like, oh dang, I got to figure out my stuff of making sure like, I don't want to feel this way of scrambling come tax time. And so that was a moment where I was like, one, I needed to educate myself about it. And then two, taxes continued my first few years of business, like to be stressful for me because I just felt like I couldn't totally gauge what the estimates needed to be. And that is something I'm very proud of now, 10 years into business. I've had an accountant the last couple years, and because I saw another business owner that was like Zen at tax time, and I was like, I want to be you. I want to be Zen at tax time, and got a recommendation through her. And now I can admit to you folks, like this year, I'm Zen at tax time. I have somebody else who like knows more. It was one of those realizations of like, sometimes as a business owner, you have to teach yourself. Sometimes you have to outsource. And this is a cost that I pay for on a monthly. I pay the accounting group a monthly fee versus like one-time tax fee, but they double check my books. They help me with all my taxes. They tell me what I owe. They've helped me adjust what percentage I put away in like a savings account every time I get paid by a client. So I have a fund for taxes just sitting there. And that has like revolutionized that part of my business. And it used to be so stressed. Like I used to dread April every year because it was just such an unknown number to me. So that has been something, very long anecdote, but like when I realized, I was like, oh no, I got to learn this. This is like, I'm a real business now. I'm not just a person charging for my services. Ryan, did you have a moment like that you can think of?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I think financial is so huge. And yeah, we feel really excited when we're getting all this money in, and we don't know how much to put away. So yeah, my first year, I definitely owed money. I don't know if I put any away. If I did, it was very little, like you were saying. I did try to hire a couple of accountants because I just don't like math. I don't want to think about it. And I like got burned by two. And so that was really hard. So it's like, do I just need to learn this myself? But now I do have someone, so that really helps. Like they do my monthly P&L. They're really available if I'm like, I actually on my, so when you work with clients, you have to send a W-9 if they're paying you. And so that's how they send you your 1099 that you claim on your taxes of how much they paid you. So on that, on one, I sent to a client, I had marked that I was an LLC corporation. And then on the other one, I sent to someone else, I said I was a sole proprietor. And so I learned this year that that client doesn't send 1099s if you're a corporation. And so I need to be marked as a sole proprietor because if you're a corporation, you're more like Target or Amazon, even though I am an LLC, which is a limited liability corporation. So all that's confusing. But yeah, I think just getting educated on it is the most important thing. And yeah, so I would say definitely money for me. And then I'm still learning this part, but the marketing myself, like I don't have a problem talking about my business, but I do have like hard time talking about my offers, I guess, or yeah, like putting a price on social media, listing the things I do. I don't know why. Like I'll talk about events all day, events that I'm hosting, clients that I work with. But yeah, I never really post about like offers or skills or anything like that. So that has something I'm like actively working on right now. So yeah, check out my Instagram and see if I've posted anything. Hold me accountable.
We will. Yeah. And that's something, I mean, the money side is so hard, I think, as business owners, unless you're someone who is maybe a former accountant or financial advisor and you discovered you had a passion for events. Like I just think I hear this over and over again with business owners. And the tax part, I'm glad Ryan, you mentioned being burned. I will also admit, like I got burned. I found somebody I use QuickBooks. I found someone like online through QuickBooks, met them on a digital call, thought it was great. They ended up ghosting me at one point. So I paid for services like I never got. And then the new company I've been with now for a number of years was like, oh yeah, she did not do the right thing in this part of your book. So they had to clean it, which I was like, thank God somebody has it. But it's just one, like, you don't know until you know. Like, I don't think I'd go back and change that. Yes. Would I wish I had some of that money back? Sure. But like I tried something. I'm proud I did. And I'm proud I just found somebody better who can help me figure out taxes. And I love what you said too about, working on talking about your offers and marketing yourself. I will say that was like a skill I had going into my business. And I was all about like regular posting, all the stuff I'd coached our clients at my old agency for. And I will admit now, like I've taken the pressure off. I don't regularly post. I try to, I should, I know it's good for me, but like in the large and all the hats we have to wear, that has just become, I'm like, that's a nice to have. And I have moments where I'm like, ooh, I'm going to film a little video and I'll post that. Like I'll do that, but I don't have a set schedule like I used to, because it's just, of all the hats we wear, I'm like, that's the one that can sacrifice when I get really busy. So give yourself grace if you're listening to us and like some of this stuff feels hard. Taxes is the only thing you can't avoid. There are people out there that will come to you because of your taxes. So Just make sure you're doing that. Ryan, what parts of running an event business have been the hardest to learn outside of the financial side of things?
I mean, I want to say marketing. We kind of touched on that a bit, but like you're saying, there are so many hats that we have to wear, and there are some that we're passionate about. So, like, I love talking about events, and I love talking about like how I help people. But yeah, the kind of marketing you have to do to quote unquote stay relevant or be seen by clients, it's really overwhelming because there's so many avenues right now. There's email, people are texting, there's uh, pop-ups on your website, there's all these Slack groups, there's Discord groups, that social media, there's 10 platforms for that. So deciding, I've definitely had trouble narrowing down, like, okay, this month I'm just going to focus on LinkedIn. And sometimes like that's not enough time to get a following going on LinkedIn. And then you kind of get tired of it because you're not seeing success. And so you're like, all right, it's email's it. Like, let me just make all these templates. Yeah. And it can be kind of frustrating when you're doing all this work and people aren't seeing it. So I feel like that's been interesting to learn and like the hardest to learn because it's always changing, like the algorithm and the apps that people are using. And, you kind of got to know like what's trending, to get seen, and like, are hashtags cool anymore? I don't know. I stopped using them. Like, I don't know. So, yeah, I feel like that's the hardest to keep up with, definitely. But like you're saying, you don't have to be on all the platforms. You don't even have to be posting. I mean, you might have the best opportunity to meet clients face-to-face networking. So yeah, don't feel obligated to keep up with everything or do everything. Do the things you definitely have to do, and, maybe pick one or two of other things that you want to try to work on. And remember, it takes time. I try to give myself like 3 months now to test something and try it. What about you besides the finance?
Oh, I mean, I was just thinking like AI, honestly, and that is, I just like haven't had time to be like, I want to just sit and learn all this AI stuff. I do use AI to help me with a lot with my like stuff here we do with the podcast, some of my content stuff, but I know I hit a bit of a roadblock because I work with so many different clients who have so many different systems. And so having one way that I always respond to clients or always talk to them, like, it's just not feasible. So I felt a little bit of resistance internally myself to really diving wholeheartedly into some of that stuff. But I'm always open-minded, I will say. Like, I'm using these tools. I just think I'm probably only barely touching the surface as a business owner when it comes to what like AI and automation could do for me.
Yeah, that's such a good one. It kind of ties in with the social media, that everything is always changing. And I think finding the voice that you trust is also hard and takes a couple of tries, because they're definitely, like we were saying, we've been burned by accountants, and like they said they were doing the right thing and following the law, and we're hiring them because we don't know if it's right or wrong. And then we have someone else tell us, no, that's not right. So finding, the source of truth for you and the things that work for you sometimes take a little bit of time to like where you're going to get your information on learning how to do things. But yeah, that's such a good one because there's so many conferences and trainings now about AI, and sometimes that costs money too. So then you have to like, is this worth my investment? Am I going to spend $200 on this conference instead of, running $200 worth of ads? So those decisions are always hard.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And even like paying for it, like some of those, what do you spend money on as a business owner? Because again, the minute you start doing it and, like your algorithm and stuff knows that you are doing business things, you're going to get all this stuff promoted at you. And I mentioned that like kind of mansplaining that happened from some like older businessmen when they first learned I was in business. We're like, well, how do you not have a lawyer and a this and a that? And I was like, this all costs money. Like I'm still trying to prove. And at the time I like started my business in quotes without really thinking it was going to be a business. It was just to like legitimize what I was doing. But I kind of, to this day, have always joked, I'm like, I would always be open to maybe full-time work. Maybe not so much now, but like I was speed dating companies. I was kind of just trying to see what happened. And so that was one I was just like, I don't think I understood exactly what I needed. And I thought it was one of those that I'm glad I didn't listen to all the advice I got, because there's a lot of people out there being like, well, you have to have this. And it was like, I don't know if I do. Do I need to? Like, you had to kind of crowdsource a little bit and understand like, okay, this one person's really passionate about this solution for their business. It's probably not going to work for me. Ryan, I kind of like this next question. As business owners, has there been a moment where your event skills carried your business maybe farther than it should have at that moment? So maybe you got somewhere faster than you thought, or where your business skills just had to like quickly catch up to where you were going as an event business?
Yeah, this is a great question. I think I was definitely underprepared for my first and second year. So my first year, surprisingly, I didn't do a whole lot of marketing. I didn't have a newsletter or anything like that, but I was on Upwork.com, which sometimes posts freelance event jobs. And I got a lead from there, and I was getting all these kind of inquiries that I was like not prepared for. I thought I would have to do a lot more outreach. And so having the systems, like I didn't have systems ready. So again, it was a lot of manual things. I tried Monday.com, trying to share that with the client, kind of ended up just being Google. But yeah, I almost didn't have like the flow ready, like it was very like, okay, we're going to kind of figure this out with like this client. And the pricing was very much like, oh, what's your budget? Let's see. Because yeah, I think everything was just like, let's see how this is going to work. What's going to get good feedback, what's not. So that I had to catch up with that a little bit. What about you? Is there something that you went really fast or had to catch up on?
This one was like a post-COVID. I feel like I had a big business. Everyone had business shifts during the pandemic, but like particularly my business, I felt like really opened up to working with groups from all over the country because I got in with virtual events with a number of agencies. And then when in-person came back, they were like, well, we like you, so we'll bring you in person. And I had one agency that asked me for insurance. I was like, of course I have health insurance. And it's like, no, like business insurance. I was like, I have never had to have this. Again, usually I'm like, the event host has the insurance, but like me as a freelance contractor, I've never had one. And I am proud of myself in the moment because I think I'm pretty sure I was honest with them about that, of just being like, I never got asked for this, but I'm happy to look into it. And because I did, they were like, okay, yeah, we need you to have it. So they added an extra like day or two to my rate to cover what would be my insurance cost, or, they're like to chip into whatever the insurance cost is for you to have that for this year, for this event. And I'm glad they did, because then it made me look into it. And I was like, oh, I got like professional liability insurance and like just general insurance as a business. Again, haven't had to use it since I got it, but I honestly probably would have been not willing to put out that amount of money if I didn't have, one, a client ask for it, and two, them saying they would give me extra money to cover it, legitimized it. And that was 4 years ago at this point, and I still have that insurance. And I now have had several other people ask me for it. And it's like, yeah, I've got it, no brainer. But one of those things that I wouldn't go back and change and like have gotten it before I got asked for it. And I feel like I tell that to other folks. I'm like, don't go out and buy, like we mentioned earlier, like don't buy all the tools. Figure out what you need, and like bit by bit, then be like, oh, someone asked me for this. Okay, now I'll go get that. Is just a great way to not like spend too much money before you really know what direction you're going with your business.
Yeah, totally. And I think when you start a business too, like you're just ready. You're like, let me get this, let me get everything. Like I want to be official. But yeah, I had the same thing with insurance. I think I only got my insurance last year because I had never really been asked for it. I think I did have one client need it. And so I was like, okay, yeah, it's great to have. But they also let me know that, if you're using your car to not go to events, but to store like transport items, you need coverage for that if their items get damaged or if your car gets damaged while you're working for this client. So yeah, that's one of those things that's you kind of don't know about until you know about. There's no real guidebook. And yeah, you just kind of find out about it and talk to an expert, and it's pretty affordable. So yeah, if you need it, I would say get it. So kind of going on that with the whole systems question and getting things in order, what systems, habits, or support have helped you feel more confident on the business side of things?
Ooh, I mean, hands down, I always say the accountant was helpful, but before that step was investing in like an accounting software. I do know some business owners, and Ryan, if you want to share after this, like how you do your finances. I know some folks still use an Excel sheet. That's how I started. I had an Excel sheet, but it was like, I had to do the Excel sheet and have copies of the receipts and all of this stuff that was just like, this is not the fun part of what I'm doing. And especially because I travel for work, I have a lot of like just travel expenses that some clients need to see exactly what I spent. Just sometimes it's for me to know, ooh, if I'm going to go for this client, I need to put an extra X in because Ubers and whatever. And so I started investing in QuickBooks, which has a really easy way to like link your bank accounts, and you can upload receipts if you need to, and you can classify things like your expenses for things. And that was one that I was like, one helped me get a handle on my expenses as a business. And then when I have an accountant, it just makes it so easy. It's a shareable system that like they can access things and I can access at the same time. And in a way that a spreadsheet, I still see some people do this at tax time that I'm like, I don't have to deal with that because I have this ongoing system. And then my second one I would say is I have like a lead document that I keep. It is a Excel sheet, talking about not using it for finances, but I do use this for myself. And it's how I track my leads of like new events. And one of the issues I've had in the past is cash flow and tracking when the event is or when I book the event. And this Excel sheet actually tracks, I put formulas in to make it so that it tracks when I get paid. So it's like I put rows for the clients and rows for like deposit invoice, final invoice. And then the columns are the months. So January, February, March, April. And then what I do is I'll put payment terms in there and you can do dates and formulas to be like, this client's net 30, so they pay me in 30 days. This one's net 15. And then I could put that income in the appropriate column. And it's just helped me project like what I have coming in a lot easier. Because I was finding myself in situations where I was like, I'm so busy. I've worked so much this month. Why is my bank account struggling? And it was because I was tracking when I did the event and I wasn't keeping track of like, oh, I did this event, but I have clients now that I know I'm not going to get paid for 2 months. Like that's just how long it is. I have other people I work with that write me the check like next week. And that's great. We love those clients. And that's not everyone though. So that's helped me kind of stabilize a bit of like one, my cash flow, two, just knowing, okay, I do need to go after events and maybe specifically events that will pay me at this time. So that those two tools, and that's like I built that Excel sheet for myself just to be a visual of what's coming in versus QuickBooks is like something I pay for. But Ryan, I'm interested to hear if you want to touch on the finances, but then yeah, what other systems or habits have you used to keep on track?
Yeah, so I also have a spreadsheet. I think I do have QuickBooks, and I kind of wish there was another software just because I feel like QuickBooks is the only one, but it is great, like you were saying, for sharing with other accountants and things like that. But they definitely want to like upcharge you for everything. I just learned, like I was trying to pay a subcontractor through ACH, and like you had to sign up for the payroll tier, and then it costs you to send them money. So yeah, I feel like I wish there was an easier way to do things. But for me, I do a spreadsheet, and like you were saying, it's like, okay, I know that I'm in, I have this client, they're going to pay me 10 grand, but it's going to be over the course of 6 months. So, which months are looking a little dry? Should I try to pick up some work? And yeah, just having that whole year projected is really helpful. Other habits, I'll say, so I've started a new one this year, and I think it's helped me in my business, and it's taking the first hour for myself. So it's protecting your first hour. I saw a guy on YouTube talking about it, and I'm like, you know what? I really like that. So I wake up like early every morning and I journal for like 3 pages or about 30 minutes. And I don't look at my phone, which has been super hard. I used to look at my phone before I got out of bed. I have breakfast. I'll like take my dog out, so I just have this hour to myself to do something creative and not like dictate how I want my day to go, as opposed to looking at my email first thing and being like, oh my gosh, there's 10 people who need this, and like jumping into that without even really acknowledging, how I'm feeling that morning. So that's been something I think has helped kind of like maintain my boundaries and also just kind of keep my mind a little bit more open and a little bit more creative. Yeah.
Right. I love that. I really, I'm like, I need to be able to do that. My butt in my head that's like, well, I can't do that is that I have clients in different time zones. So I have the really bad habit that it sounds like you've found a solution for, of like rolling over, and yeah, I just check my inbox. And it's something I've gotten good at vacation, where like in vacation mode, I literally like take it off my phone. I can't look at my email because I found my thumb will just like automatically go to my email icon without me even consciously being like, let's check my email. But I'll do it because I'm like, oh, they might have scheduled a call last minute, or the ones that have worked with me before, I've trained them to be like, you have to text me to let me know if there's a last minute call that you guys scheduled at 8 a.m. Eastern time for 9 a.m. Eastern and I'm asleep. But I love that idea. Maybe I could like do even like my first 30 minutes. I should apply of just having time.
Yeah. And I mean, it doesn't have to be first thing in the morning. I have found that that's the most helpful because you're starting your day. I don't want to start my day with stress. And so it's really helped. Another thing that this guy said was doing 15-minute Sabbaths. And so, like, literally taking a 15-minute break where you're not doing anything. So just laying there or sitting there. I haven't worked my way up to that, but yeah, I have a hard time taking breaks as well. So that's just something, like, literally taking 15 minutes for yourself. It's crazy how hard it is to do. But yeah, I think having those little personal habits really help with your business, even though it's hard because we feel like, no, I need that 15 minutes to email 10 people back, but then you start getting, like you're saying, burned out or resentful that like you're doing all this stuff all the time. And like, you do need those boundaries of, protecting like your mind and energy. So I feel like just 15 minutes to start is really good.
That's a great one. Yeah. I think my aspirational one that I'm actively working on this year has been, I am trying to get stronger and just be prioritizing movement. And it's been this weird realization I had last year that was like, I didn't realize how much of a mental benefit I got from moving my body, because I would be a couple times on show site of like, I'm going to be tired after this long day of being on site. And there were days where I would like sneak a workout in the morning. And for whatever reason, I started to realize I was like, it actually really energizes me, even though I'm, yes, making my body more tired by working out and then having a long day. Like the brain jolt I got and just like the feeling good, I was like, this is actually helping me more than if I'd slept a little more, and went straight on site. So maybe I'll happen to get your tip in by trying to, prioritize movement, because that is one that I'm better at doing that first thing in the morning than later, because life happens, clients move things. So listener, whatever that is for you, of like building that time and that space for you, because I think that's such a good point. We're talking about a lot of things to do and you might be feeling overwhelmed. So taking that time for yourself, figuring out what that Sabbath looks like for you, or those breaks, I think is such a healthy part of being a business owner. But talking about overwhelm, if you're someone who's listening to this, Ryan, we're going to pretend we're talking to one of our listeners, someone who's super confident in their event skills, but overwhelmed when it comes to the business side of events. What's one place that you suggest they start?
Yeah, this is such a good question because, I was talking about how it is hard to know where to focus your attention and where to start when there are so many options. Like, is it the logistics? Is it the marketing? Is it the face-to-face connections? Is it my branding? So for me, one, logistically, I would say just pick that one thing, whether it's like, okay, this month I'm just going to get the accountant and I'm going to work on getting all that straight, because then that takes one thing off your plate. And if you can't afford an accountant, okay, I'm going to make my spreadsheet. I'm going to start tracking this. So one thing that you can just focus on for that month or that couple of months. So yeah, I don't do everything at once. So like when I wanted a lawyer, I like got a lawyer and they looked over my contract and like, that was it, then I'm done. I can move on to the next thing. The other thing I would say though is, I said it's kind of easy to get discouraged when you don't have all the facts of running a business. I keep a brag folder is what I call it. But that's where I keep like my positive feedback from people I've run events with. So just saying, hey, this really helped me out, or I had a really great time at your event, or you made the process so simple, and it's just in my inbox. And I just look at it sometimes and be like, oh my gosh, yeah, okay, I do know what I'm doing, in this aspect. And I think that, clients don't really expect you to have everything together as far as a business. Like you were saying, someone asked you for insurance and it wasn't like, oh, I'm not going to work with you. Like, you need to figure this out. It was more like, oh, hey, this is what we require. And like, you're a business to business, like, let's figure it out together. So I think a lot of people are open to that because they want your expertise for event planning and not for the business. So yeah, I would focus on the positive when you are feeling that kind of overwhelm, and remember why you wanted to start it. And and then logistically just kind of pick the one thing for the month and knock that off your list and then go on to the next one.
Those are great answers. I think my take would be slightly more tactical, of just like, in your vein of one thing, is the first thing you need is probably an LLC. If you want to follow like the way I did it, where I was like, I want to register my business. And I remember doing it and saying it was way too easy. Like I could have registered like 30 businesses. Like it was surprisingly simple to do. Because then you can educate yourself on after the fact, especially if you're just doing like an LLC, like the very simple, it's usually a one-off fee. Washington State has its own things. I opened my business originally in Pennsylvania. They have their own rules. So it's like, open it. You probably need to name your business. Don't stress too much, because you can always change what's called your DBA, your doing business as name. So I was always like, my thing was like, be more conservative for the legal name, because that's what's going to be on all your tax forms. You could then have more fun later on if you want with your DBA, but it's up to you. So open the LLC. And then the other one, and I'll link to it because I did a YouTube video on it, is like create an invoice template. Because if you're a business, someone's going to pay you. And just having that, and like you can literally use, like, Word has a free template invoice. You can use that. It doesn't have to look pretty, it doesn't have to have fancy colors, but just like having a template of how you can invoice people. And I think in my video, I have like 4 things I always think everyone needs in an invoice, but the most crucial one, and I still see freelancers make this mistake, is having their bank info in the invoice, because you got to figure out, how do I pay you? Like, I've gotten invoices from people, and that's how I can tell they're kind of green, because it just says like, Logan owes me this money. It's like, great. Okay. How do I get it to you? Like, is it as you said earlier, like an ACH payment, or is it, what is it? So having that template. And if you don't know, there's so many resources out there, again, on the internet to like help you, but like legal business setup, an invoice, the rest of it, you can figure out. You can teach yourself, to Ryan's point, like the marketing, the focus on this one thing. But I think that's sometimes when you're overwhelmed, and some people don't even skip the LLC part, because you totally can, as an individual, charge for a service. And you just have to remember that when you come tax time, that you like build for that as an individual. So again, you could even skip that part. That was just where my brain was like, let's get legitimate. And now we got to make sure people pay us. So those would be my 2. Ryan, before we wrap up, anything else you want to add on the topic?
Oh gosh, I could go for another 2 or 3 hours. Yeah, I think that's super great. Yeah. LLC is great. And I would say the other thing, finance related. So yeah, I think like do the things that have laws first, and then the finance. So another one I see people, and I'm like still guilty of this, but is having a business account. So like you were saying, if you are going to do the LLC, create a separate checking account that's for your business. Get a credit card. You can get a free business card that doesn't have an annual fee on it. Your accountants will thank you. I'm still kind of bad at it, because I'm like, well, I want points on this card, but then I have to kind of claim it on this, and keeping track of it. So if you can, before you start that invoice, which I think is really important, have a separate account, and that'll help you, I think, visualize too, like, okay, this is business. This is what I'm using this for business costs, as opposed to, hey, I got my first paycheck, I'm going to go, buy a new car or whatever. You're like, no, this is going back into the business. So yeah, separating life and business is a little difficult, but those are some easy ways.
So yes, that's 1,000%. That is so good. I was guilty of that up through my first probably 5 years in business. And to this day, I've accidentally done it a couple times where I've used a business card for a personal expense because it was default on my phone or something. But definitely when I first started out, someone had told me that. And I was like, oh, but I already started and certain things are on my personal card. And yes, as Ryan alluded to, if you are putting stuff on your personal card, then your personal card has to be in your accounting software. And it's just keep things simple. But hopefully that helps you, if you're listening to this, a bit with your overwhelm. Before we wrap up, I will plug, because we did a workshop, Mary and I have, it's on demand, and we dive even more into this, and we talk about DBAs and insurance and legal stuff and all that fun stuff as a business owner in some very digestible chunks. So that's our workshop about how to build your event planner business. We have that link in the show notes. It is a paid workshop, but highly encourage you to check it out. If you're trying to get started, you're feeling that overwhelm, and you just want some like real talk like we had here, but expanded upon even longer. But that brings us to the end of the episode. And Ryan, you have our bonus tip this week.
Yeah. So my bonus tip this week is bring your own headset. I don't know if this is a thing that people do, but sometimes I've gone on site and they're like, oh, we have walkie-talkies and we rented them, and here's this thing you stick in your ear, and I'm super grossed out. So I just bought my own. Now I realize that you kind of have to have a few different ones because of the system of the walkie-talkie, like the different ports. But yeah, I have like the inner ear one, and I always bring that with me just in case, because I'm like, I don't want other people's germs or rentals or things like that. So yeah, that's my tip.
Ryan, that is so good. I've seen that in the production world where people have their own fancy, just even the over the ear headsets. They like the in ear, but I didn't even think, for walkie-talkies, definitely put a lot of ones in my ear that could have been in other people's ears. So that is a great pro tip. And if you don't mind, maybe you if you have a link to where you purchased one, a good example, I can put that in the show notes for folks. People like to click on things that we've already purchased. So thank you for that. And that brings us to the end of our episode. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Better Events Pod. You can send us an email at bettereventspod@gmail.com. You can also connect with us directly on LinkedIn. Myself and Ryan would love to hear from you. Just let us know you heard about us through the podcast before you hit that connect button. And if you want more Better Events content, join our private community on Substack. And before I wrap up, I do want to thank Ryan for being here as my guest co-host. I can't guarantee that you won't hear them again later during, Mary's hiatus, but thank you, Ryan. This has been amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking me to be part of this. I didn't mention that, I actually found Better Events when I created my Instagram, like for my business for the first time. And I don't know if it was the algorithm or if you were running an ad, but it popped up and it was literally, I think like the next day, the virtual conference. And so I was like, this is crazy. There's an event planner conference for event planners. Join the virtual one. And then you were like, we're meeting in Seattle if anybody wants to come. And I drove to Seattle and I got to meet some of you. And honestly, yeah, it's just been such a great community. So I'm really thankful that you've created this for all of us trying to figure this out.
Thank you. And now you get to feed back into it. So, oh my gosh, so meta. I love it. Thank you so much, Ryan. And thank you, listener. And we'll be back with you again next Wednesday.